All right, welcome to Bet the Edge. I'm Jay Croucher here as always with Drew Dinsick. We are recording in the middle of Sunday Night Football where Breece Hall has just broken off a 2-yard run and the New York Jets are losing 17-2 to the Kansas City Chiefs. So we won't touch too much on those teams, but we'll talk about all of the Sunday games, the openers for next week, and then a quick look at Monday Night Football. But Drew, what was your biggest takeaway of the day?
I think we got to start with the Buffalo Bills, Jay. Buffalo. That was a big win. And it wasn't just the way they got it done. It was the opponent, obviously. Miami came into this game with a lot of momentum, as one would say. And Buffalo shut them down. I think the ball bounced in the way of the home team, if we're being honest. But the 48-20 final scoreline between Buffalo and Miami, I think spelled or at least it spoke to the fact that Buffalo came in with as that game as a prove it game, and Miami on the other hand was coming off of a pretty impressive win the week before and a 3-0 start, and so I think it's noteworthy to understand that Buffalo should be power ranked ahead of Miami, and now Buffalo with that head-to-head win is in pretty decent shape to take control of the AFC East and maybe even pole position themselves for an AFC 1 seed, which again carries with it the equity of the entirety of the AFC Championship game. So if you wanted any kind of Buffalo futures, I hope you got them before they took care of business. But that was the game of the week, and it was an impressive win for Buffalo.
Yep. The only dampener on that is Tre'Davious White, who looks like he's torn his Achilles, which is not ideal for the team, given he's their number one cornerback. Now it'll be, Dane Jackson and Kyrie Lamb stepping up into that role. But yeah, overall, they obviously improved their chances of winning the AFC East significantly. They'll be the favorites in that division when it's repriced, given that they have the tiebreak over Miami, and we'll see. And they'll be, as good a chance as anyone for the 1 seed, I would expect. The one thing is they do have a brutal schedule the rest of the way, but so do Kansas City and Miami, so it doesn't matter as much as it might otherwise. So, yeah, I would think they should be the favorite for the AFC right now. The other thing that really stood out to me from the slate is Lamar Jackson played about as well as he's played in a couple of years. And the fact that he put up 28 on the Browns and kind of did it with ease and looked like 2019 Lamar Jackson. He's missing offensive linemen. He's missing multiple receivers. But he just came out and he made the best defense in the league to this point look pretty pedestrian. Myles Garrett got him once with a completely unstoppable move. But outside of that, they were dominant. And look, 28-3, they're going up against DTR. And teams have bad days defensively. Think about the Cowboys against the Cardinals, and now the Cowboys are probably being restored to perhaps having the mantle of the best defense after what they did to the Patriots. Think about the end of last year, what Jarrett Stidham did to the Niners. Like, great defenses have off days, but I thought that was very impressive from Lamar in a way that I wasn't expecting. And now they're even money basically to win the division, and they're right there. With I'd say they're probably the step down from Buffalo and Kansas City. But what do you think of Baltimore after today?
Well, I think it's important to note that they were the only winners in their division. Yeah. And not just only winners in their division, but the other losers all lost with a little bit of and a little extra juice.
Yeah.
The Bengals lost to the tune of, they look completely completely toothless on offense. The Steelers lost and may have lost their quarterback for the season. It's tough to say. The Ravens beat the Browns head to head in a game that did not feature Deshaun Watson. And DTR was completely outmatched. He had virtually no hope of beating that defense. I cannot really even imagine a less favorable first start as a rookie then going up against the Mike McDonald defense, that was really, really a tough ask for DTR, but he does not look ready to be a starting quarterback in the NFL. Browns get a bye now to presumably get right. I didn't really have a good read on the Deshaun Watson injury heading into the week. I think when we previewed the game during the week, I don't even remember if we mentioned Deshaun Watson as potentially injured. And, that was a little bit of a surprise that it was so serious that he had to miss the game. But it's pretty clear that their backup situation is problematic. I wonder if they will regret trading Josh Dobbs to the Cardinals. Dobbs obviously looks significantly more live in terms of NFL quarterback status than DTR does. But all this said, Ravens now have a lucky win against the Bengals when Joe Burrow was limited, a lucky win against the Browns when Deshaun Watson was unavailable. And those two wins, combined with the fact that, those were two of maybe the toughest games on their schedule in division on the road, I think portends well for the Ravens to win the North. Even if it is, an 11-win Ravens team that gets a 3 or a 4 seed. So I think actually the Ravens doing what they did today makes me even more bullish about the Bills potentially, positioning themselves well for an AFC title.
Yeah, I think I've got a lot of Browns division in the plus 230, plus 250 range. And it's funny because even after today, even after losing 28-3 at home, to the team most likely to take the division from them, I feel like that price doesn't really drift that much because of just how bad the Bengals looked in particular, who I think were the bigger threat to join the Ravens and Browns competing for that division. And then the Steelers, who have just looked terrible for a month. And I don't know how they've gotten 2 wins, but they look awful at the moment. And to be losing 30-6 to Houston is obviously not a great sign. So the fact that there's that. And then also the Browns have a very conveniently scheduled bye week coming up this week, which gives Deshaun an extra week to be able to heal. Because if this was DTR playing, their next game's against San Francisco. If it was DTR against the Niners, that's basically an automatic loss. And now it looks like they'll get Deshaun Watson back for that at home in Cleveland. So all of a sudden, that's a game that you can win. So, yeah, I wouldn't write off Cleveland. Certainly a disturbing performance from their defense. The offense, I think you largely have to throw it out. But the Ravens looking like the class of that division. In the other early games, Atlanta-Jacksonville, Desmond Ridder looked horrific. Minnesota, Carolina, Vikings saved their season. Denver, Chicago. Nothing too compelling about these games for me. Was there anything else from the early slate that stood out to you?
No, and I guess the only thing I can actually bring up is that the Ravens have 2 more road games now. After that, at Cleveland, at Steelers this week, and then at Tennessee. They are getting the Steelers at an amazing time. They're getting the Titans at a very, very solid time. And I think you could potentially be through 4 of your, your 7 road games. I guess 8. They have 8 this year. 4 of your 8 road games will be behind you before you even get into the month of November, which is, I think, pretty favorable for the Ravens in terms of, reaching some higher level of wins that gets them into kind of home stretch in the AFC. That said, the early games on the slate overall, I thought were pretty inconsequential.
Yeah,
I like that Jacksonville bounced back. The fact that Chicago choked a win was probably better for them in the long run. The Minnesota-Carolina game, I am still scratching my head about. I played the over there. I got 2 defensive touchdowns and didn't sniff the over, which seems impossible. And then the Bengals Titans we talked about. I mean, I guess the big consequential one that might be worth kind of digging a little more on is Rams Colts on the early slate. This was probably the best game. I guess some people probably would qualify Commanders Eagles as the best game of the early slate. But I really enjoyed Rams Colts. Colts spotted the Rams a 23-point lead. Rams probably could have scored even more than that. They settled for field goals in some drives where they probably should have scored touchdowns. The Colts came back to force overtime, which was pretty cool. I love watching Anthony Richardson play football. Give me more Anthony Richardson in Colts football. It was an incredible just viewing experience, ton of fun. Wish they had ended up closing the door, but the Rams are a very, very good offense. Puka Kupp with the game-winning touchdown felt very appropriate. He was incredible all game. Indianapolis had virtually no hope of covering him. I think the Rams actually have positioned themselves fairly well to get a wild card in a weak NFC. And I think Tampa Bay Buccaneers are worth the mention this here as well. Really hard fought win against the Saints. They deserved every bit of this win. They are still more injuries to this team, amazingly. But they're now 3-1 and sitting in the catbird seat in a very, very, very weak division.
Yeah, I think with the Bucs, the fact that they've secured the first half of that tiebreak against New Orleans, and the fact they've done it on the road, I think they're rightfully the favorites now for that division, incredibly, given what the expectations were of them before the season. With Rams Colts, I think if the Offensive Player of the Year vote were held today, Christian McCaffrey would win and Puka Nacua would come fourth. Incredibly, given that he has 501 receiving yards and is leading the league in receptions and just had a game-winning walk-off touchdown in overtime on the road. So he's been incredible. We'll see what happens to his usage if and when Cooper Kupp comes back. Last one is quickly. Dallas beat New England 38-3. I think that's basically curtains on the Patriots doing anything of interest in terms of winning the division or getting to double-digit wins. Wouldn't completely write off them sneaking into a wild card, though that seems unlikely. Mac Jones gets benched in the second half. Christian Gonzalez gets hurt as well. What do you read into this one? Cowboys defense, you think is just back?
That the Cowboys defense is back. They played amazingly well. And I think realistically, this was probably the job-saving performance that the Cowboys needed for Mike McCarthy. This was weirdly a high leverage game for him. If the Patriots had come out and won, I think we would have been leading the conversation with what do the Cowboys do now? They're 2-2. The Niners and the Eagles are running away from them. Does Mike McCarthy need to be replaced? Instead, we're looking at 38-3, and the biggest score differential across any team through 4 weeks is the Cowboys. And I think they're amazing. The Cowboys defense in particular. Some heartburn or some kind of consternation about losing Trayvon Diggs, but boy, oh boy, Deron Bland stepped up today. I think when they go up against mediocre quarterbacks and teams that don't have speed, this Cowboys defense is going to absolutely be able to throttle their opponents. So that's my general read there. And I think Cowboys-Niners next week is going to set up for sort of a little bit of a preview of our NFC Championship game, because you know who did not inspire a ton of confidence today? The at-home Philadelphia Eagles, who probably should have lost to the Commanders.
Yes, they probably should have. And Riverboat Ron can hand in his Riverboat card after not going for 2. Okay, well, speaking of Cowboys-Niners, all the stars will be out in Northern California, Drew, on Sunday night this week when Micah Parsons and the Cowboys clash with Christian McCaffrey and the 49ers. Coverage of this battle between two of the best teams in the NFC, probably the 2 best teams in the NFC, begins at 7 p.m. Eastern, only on NBC and Peacock. When is my man, Brock Purdy, sneaky MVP candidate, going to get his name in the promo, his face on the promo? Enough of this Christian McCaffrey stuff. We saw what happened when Christian McCaffrey played quarterback in the NFC title game. Drew, it didn't go great.
No.
Let's talk about the Week 5 openers. I'll just run through these and then you let me know what stands out to you. So Thursday Night Football in the 1 p.m. games. Commanders, 6-point favorites, home to the Bears. Bills, 5-point favorites against the Jags. I believe that's a London game. Falcons, 2.5-point favorites, home to the Texans. Lions, -9 at home to the Panthers. Colts, -1.5, home to the Tennessee Titans in an AFC South showdown. The Dolphins will bounce back from their shellacking as 9.5-point favorites against the Giants, who will be on a short week. Patriots, -1.5 against the Saints in what will surely be the most competent, unwatchable game that you will see in a while. And then the Ravens are 4-point favorites at the Pittsburgh Steelers. The one that immediately leaps out to me is that the Colts are -1.5 against Tennessee after what Tennessee did today. I thought that might be closer to pick. You can't really get closer to pick. I thought that would be pick, but what jumps out to you?
So the big questions are going to be around availability of quarterbacks. Most of the market momentum this week leading into the games was swirling around teams that had surprise quarterback inavailability. And now that we are expecting that, another week goes by, realistic to expect that Jimmy Garoppolo is available for Las Vegas against Green Bay. Realistic to expect that, Derek Carr is a little bit more, I guess, functional, or at least, gets a full week of practice going up against New England. The big question remains swirling around Pittsburgh's quarterback situation. I think if you can get Baltimore under 3, you might as well just play that. My sentiment is that Kenny Pickett will not go against Baltimore in this spot, and that Pittsburgh is falling apart at the seams. Baltimore, on the other hand, they lost another cornerback, another one. The secondary, the defensive backfield for Baltimore is so beleaguered here. But if this is a Trubisky game, I don't think you're especially worried about Pittsburgh putting up substantial points, especially with the state of their skill position group and who is healthy. So Baltimore is going to get bet, in my opinion. And if you can get them on the other side of 3, I think you have to. I think another week, a full week of practice out of Anthony Richardson makes the Colts a fun bet against Tennessee, who is better than the scoreline reflected. Similarly, I think Houston and Detroit are fun, interesting cases to make, because Houston is playing very, very well right now. Amazing defense. CJ Stroud is playing with confidence. Atlanta is not. I don't even know if Desmond Ridder even gets to start here. I assume he will, but he's been pretty forgettable. And similarly, Carolina and Bryce Young have been a disaster offensively, and taking on a Detroit team with extra rest looks like trouble. So those are mostly the quarterback injury and quarterback situational spots are mostly what I'm interested in here.
Yeah, and Justin Herbert, who his finger today with his setup as that game was winding down, looked like a movie villain from the 1920s in a black and white film, the way that was dangling around. It's a great tweet from Daniel Popper, who covers the Chargers on The Athletic. Is also, according to his bio, a house music producer. So good for you, Daniel. He said, his tweet is, Justin Herbert on his finger. It is but a scratch, just a flesh wound. When asked if the injury is actually a flesh wound or if he was quoting Monty Python, Herbert said that was just a quote. So we'll see what the deal is with Justin Herbert, but it is his non-throwing hand finger, so he presumably will be okay, I guess. They have a bye week that, again, is pretty well timed, much like for Cleveland. And on the other side of the bye week, he's got home for Dallas and then at Kansas City. So he would want to get right quickly. Let's close out with the rest of these games. The hopeless Cincinnati Bengals are 4-point favorites at the Cardinals. The Jets are 3-point dogs to the Broncos for now. The Chiefs are 6-point favorites at the Vikings for now. And then the Niners, and the big one, 3.5-point favorites over the Cowboys. I think that will probably come down. And then the Packers are -1.5 at The mighty Las Vegas Raiders. What do you think of Niners Cowboys at Niners 3.5? Seem a bit big?
Yeah, I think if you want to bet the Cowboys, I don't think you can wait.
Yeah, I thought that would be 2.5 or 3. 3.5 is
I did it as well.
quite rich. Yeah, I don't think there's any reason for there to be skepticism about Brock Purdy anymore. He was over 1 point EPA per play today. He leads the league in EPA per play. And I understand that he's had some dropped interception luck and some moments of madness. But, that's overall, the whole package at this point is very, very good. The fact that Deebo Samuel is able to play, was a good sign. McCaffrey, looks like the best running back in football alongside Bijan Robinson, I would say. But yeah, I think that line will come down. Does anything else jump out to you?
I mean, that's the big one is the Cowboys. And I I can't even really put into words how close I was to just completely jumping off of this bandwagon in every shape of the word. As we approach the Patriots game, because it feels very volatile in Dallas. I don't 100% believe in what we saw from that offense today, that's sustainable. They don't match up especially well against the Niners. But this line being outside of 3 is nonsense. It should be inside of 3. And I think this is Cowboys or pass. And I really hope they show up on the road here because yeah, I'm stacking some Dallas this week by the looks of it.
Yeah, from memory, I think I was all over the Cowboys in the divisional round in San Francisco, and that didn't work out great. As Dak Prescott had one of the worst performances of his career. The other one we didn't mention, the Eagles are 5.5 point favorites at the Rams. Kind of like the Rams getting 5.5 at this point. We'll see what the status is of Cooper Kupp, who I think is available to return. If he does or not is another question. But the Eagles have been very, very unimpressive to date. One of the more unimpressive 4-0 teams I can remember.
Yeah, extremely unimpressive. And the only thing I can echo is that what the Rams did today, pulling out that victory in that situational spot, was super duper impressive.
Yep, agreed.
They're good.
Their offense is legitimate. Okay, before we get to an illegitimate offense in the New York Giants, a reminder that Bet the Edge isn't the only show every weekday during the NFL season. You can also check out the Fantasy Football Happy Hour with Matthew Berry, Connor Rogers, and myself. It airs live on Peacock at noon, re-airs at 4 p.m. Eastern, and is available on our NFL on NBC Sports YouTube channel, as well as wherever you listen to your podcasts. We also do a Sunday show pre-game at 11 a.m. Eastern on Peacock leading up to the games, where you can tune in like today and see me yelping as a giant bug lands on Matthew Berry's shirt outside of MetLife Stadium, where we did the show from today. Apparently a terrifying bug scene in East Rutherford that I wasn't prepared for. But anyway, onwards we march to Seahawks-Giants.
I got to ask you a question before we move off of today.
Yeah, about the bug.
No, not about the bug, but about Brocktober, man. Should we claim that as our thing? Because, I mean, 3.5
clothes or bet on him for MVP.
Yes, no, Brocktober MVP feels like more alive than I've ever remembered. I don't think Tua and the Dolphins are going to get there. I think Josh Allen, even as amazing as he looked today, is still he's still prone to the kind of unfortunate turnovers. I worry about Pat Mahomes and what he's working with in terms of skill position players. This does feel like it could be stolen. And if there's anyone, Brock with a 16-1, 15-2 type of record could be the guy.
I'm not even sure it's a stealing. There is a very real chance where he could be the league leader in QBR, in EPA per play, in passer rating, on the best team in football by margin. It's not really stealing MVP, it's just winning it. And now people say that Christian McCaffrey is going to steal credit and he's being touted as the team's MVP. Christian McCaffrey's not the team's MVP. He doesn't
No,
play quarterback. I'm sorry. He
no,
just doesn't play quarterback. We saw what happened.
no.
Did everyone see what happened when Brock Purdy left the NFC title game? How'd Christian McCaffrey go leading them to a win over the Eagles without Brock Purdy? Like, it's just Purdy is the more valuable player to that offense. He's the quarterback, and he's getting progressively better as well. And look, I know he's not going to have the volume, and he's probably not going to have 40 touchdowns. He's not going to have 4,500 passing yards. But if he's the most efficient quarterback in football and gets to, 4,000 yards and 34, 5 touchdowns or whatever, which I think is very doable, and he does it while having like 5 picks, then I think he probably would win MVP if the Niners are 14-3, 15-2, and have the best record in football. This is just how it goes. No one thinks Brock Purdy is better than Josh Allen or Patrick Mahomes, but no one thought Matt Ryan was the best quarterback in football the year he won it either. No one thought Jalen Hurts was the best quarterback in football last year, and he was minus 150 before he got hurt to win MVP.
It's true. And you might have already said this, and so apologies if it's repeated, but he was over 1 EPA per play.
Yeah.
Today.
Tua was like 0.92 EPA per play.
Unbelievable.
And they won 70-20.
Unbelievable.
Yeah. Purdy was 20 of 21 today for, I think, 283 yards. He had 2 touchdowns. He had 1 stolen off him that was converted to a rushing touchdown, which also happened a couple of weeks ago with Deebo Samuel, which I wasn't happy about.
That's right.
He rushed in 1 himself. I think he should. Look, I don't think it's a massive rort or anything. I would still have Mahomes, Allen, Tua above him. And I probably have Lamar Jackson slightly in front of him, but he's right there. And earlier today, there was some 30-1 available on Purdy. Max should be half that price. And potentially even shorter, I would say.
Yeah.
Should we talk about 2 teams that don't have an MVP candidate? The Seattle Seahawks, minus 1.5 now at the Giants. That line's been moving around. It's flipped to the Seahawks being favored. The total is 47. And I think, to me, the most interesting thing about this game, Drew, is do you think that the Seahawks might have a path to being a good defense? Because they're getting healthier. And now, like Tariq Woolen, the rookie Weatherspoon, Jamal Adams, Quandre Diggs, still got, Bobby Wagner in town. Like, they do have pieces and talent. They still don't really have a pass rush, which is a problem. But do you think there is a way for this to be, the 11th best offense and the 15th best defense, and they're actually a really solid 10-7 playoff team locked in?
Man, my feelings about Seattle are so complicated. I don't even know where to go with this question that you ask. I hold their defense in low regard, largely because of the pass rush situation. If they end up being like some amazing team that can just cover everyone, even the good passing offenses, and they can just keep them smothered despite not getting a pass rush, like, if that's the way they want to live, okay, go for it. That feels very, very fragile to me. And I look at this particular matchup, I feel like very, what's the right word? Friendly kind of characterization that it was bouncing around. I played some Giants this week, and the market has gone one way against me. This has been pretty clear sign Seattle is the side. I don't know that I can really put my fingers on how or why. I did expect that Andrew Thomas was going to be available, and he's out. I did not care one way or the other if Saquon Barkley was going to play, and he is out, or at least doubtful. But when I look at Daniel Jones and I look at him going up against a defense that can't generate a pass rush, I look at a guy that can get into the high 20s in terms of operating this offense. And the Giants are in a pretty favorable situation here where, they played on Thursday Night Football a million years ago against the Niners. Like, it really feels quite a long time ago that we saw the Giants play a football game. In that game, they elected to keep a ton of players out of it to keep them, fresh for this contest. And so I think the Giants are going to come give you a game effort. I don't know that the Giants get a comfortable win here, but I played them to get the win. And I think the Seahawks, particularly the fact that the Seahawks have a little bit of a brewing cluster injury going on with their offensive line, going up against the Giants D line that can generate interior pressure, and that being sort of the key that has sort of unwound the quality of play from Geno Smith. That's all I needed to get involved with the Giants here, and very hopeful that they do not just completely turtle the way they have in prime time to this point.
My concern with the Giants would be that just with offensive line, sometimes you get to the point where it's just not viable, and your quarterback has 1.9 seconds to throw or something insane. Like it's just, and you just cannot run a functional offense. And that's what I thought would doom CJ Stroud in his offensive rookie of the year campaign a couple of weeks ago. And we'll talk about that market throughout the week. But he just hasn't taken a sack in the past 2 weeks, and they've managed to survive. And Damian Pierce wasn't efficient on the ground today, but still got 81 yards. And sometimes you can surprise with an offensive line despite a lack of names. I don't have that confidence with the Giants. They were abominable against the Niners. And I understand it's the Niners, but that game was just wrecked, and they never had a prayer on offense. And, Darius Slayton and Isaiah Hodgins aren't getting open in, before the pass rush comes home against this Giants O-line. Now, on the flip side, you would say that, well, the Seahawks don't really have a pass rush. They certainly don't have the Niners pass rush. So maybe that mitigates that weakness a little bit, but I don't know. The Giants defense hasn't been very good either. This might just be a very bad team. And the Seahawks, I trust in Geno and DK and Tyler Lockett and Kenneth Walker, and the O-line isn't good, but it wasn't good last year either, and they were still efficient enough. I do think this defense might have the pieces, and we'll see because we haven't seen it together yet, but I think the secondary might actually be okay. And, the linebackers, which aren't as important, but still to have Bobby Wagner there helps. And they do have, they have some pieces on the defensive line. They're not getting much of a pass rush, but I do think there is upside on that defense that doesn't really exist for New York. So I can see why the market is trended that way, particularly with the injury news around Andrew Thomas, who would have been very helpful to have in this game. So I think that's a key reason why this line has moved, because not only are you losing one of the best offensive linemen in the game, but you're losing one of the best offensive linemen in the game from maybe the worst offensive line in football now as a result. So that is why I am somewhat leaning Seattle at this point. Yeah.
It's too late for me. I've already played the Giants, so I'm just
big game for Slate.
Big blue riding it out. It is what it is, but the point about Andrew Thomas is super valuable. Like I really did not see it coming that he was not going to be available for this contest. It felt like they held him out precautionarily against the Niners, and no, it wasn't a precautionary holdout. He wasn't even available 10 days later. So it's this has been a rough season for the Giants. I don't know. I'm now clinging on to hope that the extra time to prep that Brian Dable comes up with his best game plan as a former Coach of the Year winner. I believe in him.
Yeah, he's right now he's 150 to 1 to win Coach of the Year back to back, Brian. And you can get 200 to 1 at Croucher Bet because he's not winning Coach of the Year this year. But congratulations on your win last year, Brian. Semi-deserved. Okay, we are done. Don't forget to check out NBCSports.com for more information to help you with your wagers. Thanks for those of you watching on the NBC Sports YouTube channel. Please rate and subscribe if you're listening to us in podcast form. And also a reminder to find all your favorite NBC Sports shows on Amazon Music. Just head to amazon.com/NBC Sports. From Jay Croucher and Drew Dinsick, go Big Blue, and we'll see you soon.